now we're going to talk about fundraising. And this is not going to be about how to do it, but actually how to hopefully avoid doing too much of it. This may be a bit ironic coming from a venture capitalist, but with the proliferation of funding in the private markets, it's I'm definitely seeing what I would say is an unhealthy amount of capital being raised by a lot of startups. And so when it comes to companies that I'm working with or that I'd hope to work with, I'm really interested in helping entrepreneurs think about fundraising as far less of a goal and maybe really a cost of doing business that if you can avoid, you're better off doing. You know, in our view, the strongest businesses raise the least amount of capital, not the most. And I think that's hard because culturally now in entrepreneurship, when companies are raising these 20 million, 50 million, $100 million rounds and they broadcast it all over the media, it sort of looks to other entrepreneurs as like, whoa, those guys raised $100 million. Those guys raised $200 million. That's like an achievement or some kind of badge of honor. But it's really not. That is not the goal that companies should be setting. Um, and I can't tell you how many times, right after a round, right after we've led a round, we join a board. I'm sitting on the board with an entrepreneur, and their first topic is the next round of financing. And it's just like, we just did a round. Like, how are we now already thinking about the next round? Not only that, but setting it as a goal. It's not really a goal. It shouldn't be a goal. It sometimes is a necessary input to continue to grow the business, but it's not the output, right? It's not the goal of what you're trying to achieve. Goals should be things like getting to cash flow positive, launching a product, achieving certain financial milestones. Fundraising is a cost. You are selling equity in your business, and it means a lot of other things. If your company requires hundreds of millions of dollars to build, it's not that strong of a business, frankly. I mean, it shouldn't be that expensive to build a really good software company in most cases. And so I think it's something to think about in terms of how much capital you really need and how can you build a company more efficiently, because that's really where you have the freedom and capability of building what you want, right? You control your own destiny. And we actually talk about that internally. Like, is this company going to have destiny control? Which is what? It's basically getting to cash flow positive. If on this round of financing, with what you have, you can push this business to cash flow positive, you're going to be in a much better state to deal with any shocks to the system, as well as, frankly, raising capital on your own terms. And so it's something we absolutely think about. The strongest businesses just don't need to raise. And we encourage the businesses we work with to be very careful and very thoughtful about when and how they raise. That's not to mention, frankly, the damage that too much money can do. Because you would think, if I can raise 50, $100 million right now for my business, oh my God, like I could take over the world. But the reality is that what happens in almost 100% of cases, and I've been on boards of companies where this has happened, we raise 50 million, we raise $100 million, and immediately, despite knowing ahead of time that the encouragement is do not spend this, be careful with it, slow down the growth of the business to make sure that we're not going wild with this new cash. Every time we basically overspend, we overhire, and we get to a point where we're like way out of our ski tips and we have to slow down and pull back. And the cash itself is what did the damage because the business was doing great before that. So it's really something to think about carefully and try to plan out a business that can be as efficient as possible. That's a strong business. A business that can raise as much money as possible is just a cash hungry machine that probably is going to have to get fixed at some point.